Hello everybody, it's Joe with RVing with Joe here. I recently got a comment on a video from a viewer who just got a brand new Ember trailer and they just had it delivered to them, and it was delivered remotely, like they purchased it from a distance, and as a result they never had a PDI or a pre-delivery inspection. Now, pre-delivery inspection is absolutely essential if you're getting an RV. That's really where the seller, most often a dealership, will spend an hour or sometimes a couple hours walking you through your RV, teaching you how to use every little thing and allowing you to spot any problems or defects that you can note right there before you take the RV home. Unfortunately, this person wasn't able to do that for whatever reason, and I do strongly recommend that you avoid this situation. You really do want to be able to take that delivery in person with the dealer wherever you can. But I understand sometimes there's opportunities or situations where you just end up with a trailer. Now, say you're one of those folks and you don't really have any experience. And this person has a little bit of experience, but some people end up with a trailer, and I've seen them post where they just are like, I got a trailer and I have no idea where to start. Again, I don't recommend that. I recommend you kind of bone up on watch a whole lot of YouTube videos on like this before you get an RV. But if you've got an RV and you don't know where to start, well, hopefully this video will help you get a start. I cannot cover everything in a video, but I can gloss over a great deal of it. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to take a list that I'm using here and I'm going to put it up on my Patreon page. You don't need to pay money or subscribe. You just need to head over to my Patreon page. I'll put a link right here and you can actually get this document, and I'm going to put the links in there to other people's videos that go into great detail. How to sanitize your water tank, things like that. I will try to include links to other people's videos so you can use this as a starting point and then learn a little bit more about RVing and your RV so that you can operate it safely. Couple more things before I start. If you do find yourself in the situation, I strongly recommend that you get an RV inspector or a mobile RV repairman to just come out to your RV and walk you through your RV and do an inspection. They're both qualified to do it, and it generally, I think, would cost you, for a mobile repairman around here, definitely under $200 for an hour of their time. I'm sure it's got to be something on par for that for an inspector. If you're not sure where to find one, call your local RV park. I bet you they got a mobile mechanic, their card right there on their bulletin board they can shoot you to. And that will help you a lot. You really do want to have a professional take a look at your RV when you first buy it and when you're buying it. Even if that professional is selling it to you, so they're biased, that's still better than you just figuring it out on your own. It's also important, if you are an RVer, to maybe watch this and add your own points at the end. I'm not going to be able to hit every point, but I'm hoping that I hit the important ones. And if you think that I missed something that they should really know about, or if you disagree with me and think you have a different opinion about how I suggested you do something, please put it in the comments below. I encourage you to add your own points, and if you're reading this to get information, I encourage you to read the comments so that you can get the different viewpoints on some of these issues. One last thing, RVs are inherently very dangerous. It is important that you seek professional advice and that you know what you're doing, that you read every manual, and it's important that you take every warning you read seriously. Every year, lots of people die in RVs because of carbon monoxide poisoning, fires, of course, crashes. They can be very dangerous things. People die every year from using their travel trailer. So it's important that you do it right. That includes all of the safety precautions that I'm going to be talking about: sanitizing your tank, learning how to use your devices safely, your propane, and knowing how to drive it safely. Failure to do all that not only jeopardizes your own life, but it jeopardizes anyone you're camping with, and it jeopardizes the other campers near you or the people driving near you on the road. So please, please, please treat this many thousand-pound device that's going to be doing 70 miles an hour down the freeway as a very, very deadly machine that you take very seriously. So I'm just going to start running down this list. And again, you might want to print out this list and follow along, or make sure you print out this list at the end so you can keep it for yourself and use it as a guide. Okay, the first thing you want to do when that RV is delivered to you is just verify that the VIN matches the paperwork and matches all of the sales paperwork you've got. Make sure you've got the same RV on all the same paperwork, and that's the RV you got in front of you. You also want to check the tires to make sure that the date code on the tires does not show you that you have dates 2 or 3 years old if you've got a brand new trailer. You're going to want to register and insure that trailer. Here in British Columbia, it's literally the same process. Registration and insurance are all one. But yeah, wherever you go, make sure that you have it registered with the state or province that you're in and insured. It's a very expensive thing to replace, and it's always good to have car insurance on your trailer. Hopefully your RV came with a big pile of manuals for all the devices inside. When you get them new, you usually have a good pile of manuals, but don't worry about it. Every single thing on your RV most likely has a PDF that you can get from the manufacturer, whether it's your refrigerator or your air conditioner. If you go to that manufacturer's website, you should be able to download the manual. And if it did come with all the manuals, make sure you fill out all the registration cards. Most likely the warranty of your parts will last longer than the warranty of your RV. So it's best to register all the little appliances that come along with your RV. Any registration card you've been handed, send it in, get it done. It doesn't take much time. You can do it while you're watching TV, but get her done. Make sure you decide whether or not you want to get any kind of AAA or CoachNet insurance, at least maybe some AAA for your tow vehicle, and it won't cover your trailer, but there's CoachNet as well. There's other roadside assistance out there, but this is a good time to think about it. And think about your parking logistics. A lot of people get RVs, they bring them home and find out that their local city laws or their bylaws or the HOA laws or the strata laws, wherever it is you live in US or Canada, there's often rules. And those rules dictate whether and where you can have your RV in your front yard, backyard, side yard, driveway. Every city is a little different. Sometimes there's seasonal rules. Sometimes there's absolute bans. Sometimes there's no rules at all and you can do whatever you want. But you want to look up those rules before you get the RV. I've heard of horror stories of people building whole RV pads on the side of their RV, buying a $100,000 plus dollar RV, bringing it home, and finding out a week later they got a letter from the HOA saying that that's banned and they can't park it there. It really ruined their dreams. Okay, so the next question is, you got a trailer, but can your truck actually tow it? So what you need to do is you need to research the gross vehicle weight rating, the gross combined weight rating of your truck, and the axle ratings, the payload ratings. There's all these numbers you need to do the math on. And the best way to do it is to watch a video on how to weigh your trailer and truck. I did one. I'll put a link to it in the list. The basic principle is you want to make sure that your trailer can not only pull the trailer, but that it can actually handle it from a payload perspective as well. In other words, if you have a half-ton truck that only has 1,000 pounds of cargo capacity, and you've got a trailer where 800 pounds of tongue weight is going to be down on the back of your truck, that does not leave you a lot for cargo and even people. So a lot of people don't really do the math on their payload, and it's where they get burned when they get an RV. So watch one of these videos and then go out to a weigh station, whether it's a CAT scale or to your local, sometimes your local municipal dump or your local gravel pit will have a scale, and you just ask nicely, can you pull up there and get your weight? They don't care, sure. So you hop on there, read the readout, and get your weight, and then what you want to do is 3 passes. You want to do your truck just by itself, so you have a baseline. You want to do your truck with the trailer and all the weight distribution, hitches, and everything hooked up. And then you want to do one with no weight distribution hitch. And if you do the math between those 3 tests, you'll know everything you need to know about whether or not your vehicle is ready to tow your trailer. I mentioned your weight distribution hitch. You need to make sure that it is set up properly. There are certain angle adjustments and height adjustments to match them up so that you are towing level and proper. The weight distribution hitch you have should have a manual from the manufacturer, and that manual should give you very specific instructions on how to set it up yourself. If not, that's one of the things you might want to have a professional help you with. You want to make sure that you have a brake controller on your truck. That's what controls the brakes on the trailer. Modern trucks like my 2024, it's all just built in. Most modern trucks, you can just plug in the trailer and the brake on board will control it. If not, you can use a Tochta or some other aftermarket third-party brake that you can just install under your dash, and then you attach the trailer to that. And that's how it works, basically. So you want to make sure that you have that brake controller, and you want to test it every now and then by squeezing the handle manually and making sure that the back wheels lock up. Now, Now, ideally for your PDI or for your first trip, especially if this is a used trailer, you want to check the tires, like I said, but you also want to check the bearings and the brakes. If those tires are more than, say, 4 or 5 years old, you absolutely want to replace them, especially if they're no-name tires, maybe even if they're only 3 years old. The tires that come with trailers can often be low grade. Not always, but sometimes. So look up that tire, and if it's a no-name and it's old, get rid of them. You want to make sure that the bearings are well greased and that the brakes are in good shape, and that's something that usually you want to have a professional do unless you're someone who knows what they're doing. So make sure you've checked that. Make sure you check that all of the things around the hitch work. So that's the coupler that attaches to the hitch ball itself. That needs to work well. You need to have 2 safety chains attached to that trailer. Make sure you crisscross them when you attach them so that it acts like a cradle in case your trailer falls off the truck. And you're going to want to make sure that your breakaway switch is hooked up. That's an extra little device right around your hitch that's going to have a little hook that you hook onto your truck. And if your trailer breaks away from your truck, a little post will pull out of the breakaway switch and it will actually stop your trailer. The brakes will engage and your trailer brakes will just lock up right there on the freeway. And that prevents your trailer from rolling off. I test that at the beginning of every season, and I try to always test the brakes by squeezing them manually at the brake controller every time I see a brake check, unless that brake check doesn't allow commercial vehicles. Now you want to do a full inspection of the body of the trailer itself. You want to look at it from top to bottom. You want to look at all 4 walls, the roof, and underneath. That means getting maybe a crawler on wheels to slide underneath, and you want to look at every wire that connects to something. You want to make sure that it's tight, that it looks good. You want to make sure that the underside is sealed well. You want to make sure as you look around the sides that all the seals and all of the caulk inside all the gaps is solid, that there's nothing there that you need to replace, that there's no gaps. You want to work your way onto the roof and make sure again that all the sealant is solid. There's no cracks. The sealant on top's a little more goopy and thick. And if you start seeing cracks there, that needs to be solved. It's not that hard to fix, but you do need to do it right. And you'll find YouTube videos to help you with that. Okay, as we open the door, we're going to want to go and start checking some of the devices inside, some of the appliances, some of the safety devices. And this is where we're going to pause and change direction. And we're going to go over just a couple of things before we go any further that you have to know about RVing. And this is how do the water systems work and how do the electrical systems work. Now, as you get into these, if you see that you already know this, well, then just skip on to the next part. I'll try to put in some chapter markers so you can just skip over it. But for those that don't, or for those that want a little primer, this might be a good refresher on how the water systems work and how the electrical systems work. Let's take a look at them. Now, there's 2 general ways to get water into your RV or use water in your RV. One is just to be hooked up to city water like you are at home, and then it just flows in. And 2, you can use the onboard water system to store your water. When I say onboard water, I mean that you should have 3 tanks on your system. Most RVs have 3 tanks. You have your drinking and potable water, which you want to keep filled and sanitized. You've got your gray water, which is where your sink and your shower drain to. And you've got your black water, which is where your toilet water goes to. And in some RVs, they'll have the bathroom sink drain to that same tub. Now, in addition to those 3 water tanks, you've got some components. You've got a sink, a shower, you've got a hot water heater, you've got a toilet. Sometimes there's an outdoor shower. There's usually a couple of sinks. But you have these basic devices, places you want water to work. And so the idea is using a drinking water safe hose, you can just hook up to the city water and just plug it into your RV, and that will run cold water to your hot water heater, to your sink, to your shower, to your toilet. And then the hot water heater will run some hot water, of course, to your shower and sink so you can take a nice warm shower, clean your hands. And if you want, you can use that same hose to just fill up your potable water tank, and then you can disconnect and you can let the water pump that's on board handle that pumping. So you can just fill up your tank, disconnect, and any place you stop, you can just go and turn on the water pump and go turn on a sink or use the toilet. It's really one of the great things about having an RV. The water system travels with you. You don't have to be hooked up. Now, those gray systems, well, they do have to be drained eventually. So like I said, the shower and the sink, they drain to the gray tank, and then the toilet, it drains to the black tank. So eventually you need to get one of these slinkies, they're sometimes called, or the sewer tubes, and you need to hook it up to your RV, and you need to plug it into the ground, and then you're going to dump. Historically, the principle is, and make sure you watch a full video on how to dump. In general, you want to hook up your hose. You just release a little bit of gray water, just enough to test that there's no leaks, and then you release your black entirely. You let your black tank empty. If you've got a black tank flush, you want to let it flush out. That's where some extra water runs through your black tank, cleans it all out, and then you switch over to your gray tank where you drain your gray. The reason you always do your gray last is because, well, there's a lot of stink in that sewer, and you want the gray water to clean out your sewer tube. That gray water is pretty much dishwater and shower water, right? It's just soapy water, and it really works well for cleaning out your hose at the end, and then your hose is nice and clean when you're all done. Always invest in a good solid sewer tube. There are some areas I'll tell you don't need to spend money on. This is one where you really do want to spend the right amount of money. Now, when you park your RV or store it, you're going to need to drain the water out. So the hot water heater and the potable water tank, they have their own drains and their own way to drain it. So make sure you drain those entirely. There's also these low point drains. These low point drains, which are usually located on the lowest point of your hot and cold water systems. If you go underneath the belly of your trailer, you should probably see a couple of tubes poking out, usually red and blue, and that's how you drain your system. So that way all of your plumbing and all of that gets drained out completely. And that's your water system. It seems complicated at first, but if you break it down to a few components, it's really not that hard. Now, how does power work on an RV? Well, you have AC power and DC power. AC power is alternating current, and that's the kind of thing that you plug into your wall, right? That's what you have at home. And then there's DC power. That's the kind that works with batteries. And when you plug into your cigarette lighter adapter or the USB ports, that's almost always running off of 12-volt DC power. Now, the way you get power to your RV is you just plug it in, just like any device at home. There is a plug for your RV, and there's a plug you put in the wall. Now, if you're at home, you can use a 15 amp simple household plug. However, you do need to be careful. You probably can't run everything in your RV when you're doing that. If you're at an RV site, then you can usually plug into the 30 amp or the 50 amp plug, depending on how your RV is set up. Those are quite powerful, and they should be able to handle all of the built-in items on your RV. Now, when you do plug in, it's all going to go into this PSU, or power supply unit. And I'm just going to describe this in the abstract, but basically you got three parts to a PSU. You have an inverter, which turns the DC energy into AC energy. You've got a converter, which turns AC energy into DC energy, and a charger for when you want to charge your batteries, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. Don't worry about how these are configured. Just know you've got this power supply unit system that can usually do all three of these things. Sometimes it's all in one unit, sometimes it's in two, sometimes it's in three. But once you plug in that outdoor power plug or hook up to a generator to get some AC power into your trailer, it's going to power up your air conditioner, your microwave, all your 110-volt plugs. But interestingly, it can also power your DC devices because you have a converter. So the AC can get converted to DC, it happens in the background, and all of your DC power accessories will work. The DC power accessories are all your essential items in your trailer. So these are things like your lights, your heater, your tongue jack, your water heater, your slide out, your awning. All of these things can run off of 12 volt. You don't need to plug in at all because you have a battery. Now, the battery can power all of your RV basics, right? In my case, I've got 3 lithium batteries, a pretty beefy setup. So I can run my lights, my heaters all night long, no problem at all. But not only that, I can use those batteries and run all my AC devices. So I can actually run my microwave, I can plug into my 110-volt plugs, and I can even run my air conditioner off my battery. Now, not everyone can run their air conditioner off their batteries. In fact, a simple little 12-volt car battery will not last more than a few minutes if you try to turn on your air conditioner, if it'll even start. In my case, with those 300 amp hour batteries that I have, I can run my air conditioner for about 2 to 3 hours, depending on how warm it is outside. So that's not a lot. But if I'm not running my air conditioner, I can run everything, including computers and all that, for days at a time without ever turning on my generator. Now, when I do plug in my generator or plug into an RV site, I'm immediately charging my batteries. Anytime you plug in your RV, you're generally charging your batteries back up right away. Also, when your truck is hooked up, in most cases, it should be charging your battery. Now, it's not a very powerful charge unless you've custom wired up something. It's a pretty low charge. But if you have a very small battery, that little charge is going to mean a lot to you. So it does work. And one of the more popular ways recently to keep everything charged up is solar panels. I have 3 solar panels on my roof, as well as some other ones I can plug into the trailer. So whenever I visit my trailer, whenever I pick it up from the storage yard, it is always 100% full. And that's because of solar. So hopefully now you have a basic understanding of how the AC and DC systems work in a trailer, at least in the abstract. Now, before we step inside, we do need to turn on the propane so you can test those devices. Now, propane is one of those scary, deadly ones, so the best thing to do is to have a water bottle with dish soap and spray it all over the propane connectors and any propane hoses you see to see is there any leak, and you'll see bubbles if there are. Now, I generally, admittedly, don't do that often. What I do is use my nose. Propane is stinky, and if you just go around and smell, that's a good first check to see that if you smell propane, stop, turn off the propane and figure out where it's loose. You shouldn't smell any propane except maybe right at the nozzle after you've connected or disconnected the propane tank. So make sure you test all the propane system for leaks, and when you turn on the propane, make sure you've checked that the stove is not turned on. It's really easy to start flooding your trailer with propane because you turned on the tank and didn't know that the stove was on the on switch. That did happen to me the very first day we had our very first RV. That's why I mention it. So now that you understand, head on inside, take a look around, and take a look at your safety devices. That's going to be your smoke detector, your CO2 detector, your propane alarm. All these need to be tested. They generally all have test buttons on them. Make sure you check them, test them, and if they like your smoke alarm probably has a battery, then make sure that battery is swapped. Generally, these devices only last about 5 years if they have an onboard battery, so make sure you check for their expiration dates as well. And make sure you buy an extra fire extinguisher. The RV probably came with a little white fire extinguisher, but you need something a little more beefy, an ABC style monster one that's going to really help you out, and get it near your bed or where you're hanging out the most in your RV. If you want to get 2, that's even better, but make sure you add some fire extinguishers to your mix. Once you've tested all those safety devices, it's time to try out every appliance you can see. So you want to try the slide out. You want to try the awning. You want to take them in and out a couple of times. You want to turn on your hot water heater as soon as possible because you want to see how well it heats up the water. Of course, it's really best to be plugged into the AC system when you're doing this. You want to test your microwave, heat up a cup of water, make sure it's working. You want to turn on the television, the radio, every electrical device you see, you want to turn on and try. Try every single light, every single switch. Once you've tested every electrical device and even tried the air conditioner, now that the water heater is heated up, you can try to check to see it's putting out hot water. You want to check the stove, make sure that it's working, and any other propane devices you have outside, maybe an outside barbecue. Make sure you just try to plug everything in, test it, make sure it works before you ever leave your home or storage area. If you're seeing any electrical problems, or even if you're not, think about testing your battery and doing a few tests with a multimeter. Maybe that's outside of your skills, but that's fine. That's something one of those professional RV repairmen or inspectors can help try to figure out for you. If you've got solar panels, you want to make sure that whatever the monitor says is working right and that you're actually sending sunlight to your batteries and that's working properly. And if you haven't already, make sure that you go purchase a surge protector. A surge protector is really important. This is one of those other areas you want to spend money on, like your sewer tube. This is not the area to skimp. Make sure you get one of those and then plug it into your post before you actually plug in your RV. That'll tell you if the power is clean, and it should short out and break if the power goes bad or there's a surge. So the surge protector breaks instead of your RV. It can cause a lot of damage, and a lot of RV parks got some pretty shady electricity. Make sure you checked all the plumbing, so that's turning on the shower, trying the toilet, all the sinks. If you have a shower miser, that's a third handle right underneath your on and off handle for your shower. That's a device that actually will route the water back to your fresh tank. So people will use it when they're letting their hot water heat up in the shower, but they don't want to waste the water. They'll use the shower miser. It's a little switch that sends the water back to your tank. And then when the hot water is finally warm, you flip it back and start taking a shower. These are getting really common and they confuse a lot of people. They're wondering, why is my shower not turning on, but the water is running? Make sure you look up how a shower miser works if you have a shower miser. Now you're going to want to sanitize this water system at some point here before you go on your first camping trip. Make sure you read and understand or watch a video on how to sanitize your tank. It's pretty much a matter of filling it with bleach, letting it drain out. It's important to do it either at this stage or on the first night of your camping trip, but you really want to sanitize your whole RV water system. You also want to test your water system hooked up to the city water if you can, and also unhook the city water and turn on your water pump and see if your water pump will pump water from your potable tank and if that's working as well. So you don't want to just test the water systems, but you want to test the water pump itself. And as you're doing all of this, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning, but as you're doing all of this, from the start of your inspection right onto the stage, you want to keep a notepad with you and write down everything you see that you either have a question about or you think might not be working right. You're going to go back and revisit that list in the coming weeks, and you're never going to remember it all. So make sure you're writing down anything you see or have a thought about as you're going through the system, and then you can revisit that list in the coming days. Now it's time to load up some gear. You need to buy some gear for your new RV, unless you have an old RV that you can bring it over from. You're going to want to get some rubber wheel chocks. I prefer bigger ones, good solid ones to keep your trailer in a good stable position. I recommend you have 4 of them. You want to make sure you have a tire pressure monitoring system. This is a digital system. You can get a really nice one like the Lippert Tire Link, or you can just get an Amazon knockoff. But one way or another, make sure you've got a tire pressure monitoring system on there. You're going to need leveling blocks. Some people buy these plastic leveling blocks, a few different bags of them. They'll use them under their stabilization jacks. Sometimes they'll use them under their tires. I usually start off pretty cheap. I just buy a bunch of wood. So I'll just get a 4x4 and have it cut into a bunch of 12-inch pieces. And I'll bring that along as well as a couple of 2x4 pieces. I'll often bring to like a 2 foot by 1 foot board that's about an inch thick as just a flat board to put my tire on in case it's muddy or in case I need to raise it up just a little tiny bit. A little wood goes a long way. It's a bit heavy, but it's cheap as heck. You're going to need a water hose. So get a clean, good water hose made for drinking water. Don't just get your average garden hose. You want one designed for drinking water that doesn't have any of those chemicals in it. And you're going to want to use a regulator. You can just get the cheap regulators. Those will work fine. I carry 2 of them because it's easy to lose one. And you do not want to run the water from an RV park into your RV. The water in RV parks is notoriously really strong. Sometimes I've seen crazy, like 100+ psi water systems, and you don't want anything like that going through your RV. You'll blow the PEX and rubber tubes right out there, and you'll have a leak in your RV in the middle of your trip. So really make sure you always use a regulator anytime you hook up city water to your plumbing. It's good to have a Y adapter so you can hook up a second hose or still have access to the water while you're hooked up. And some people like to have a hose storage bag to keep it clean and separated from everything else. I mentioned you're going to want the surge protector. You're also going to probably want an extra extension cable. So for your 30 amp plug, it's usually around 20 feet long. And then I get an extra 20 or 25 foot extension cable that I keep with me in case I need to reach a little farther to get to power, which I often use when I need to hook up my generator in the back of my truck to my trailer. I've got to use the extension cord to make it all fit. As far as the sewer tube, again, I mentioned this is where you want to spend a little extra money, get like a nice Rhino. They always change the marketing names, but just get the more expensive one, the thicker one. The more you spend, the happier you're going to be. If you store this out of the sun, these things will last years. I often say you should have enough sewer tube to match the length of your trailer. I have a 20-foot trailer, but I don't just carry a 20-foot hose. I carry 2 sewer tubes, 2 10-footers. Most of the time, 10 feet works just fine, and if I need 20 feet, I've got the extra one there. Also, if one breaks, which eventually it does happen, they can crack or they get a little leak, you've got a second one that you can use as a backup, so you've always got a redundant system. So this is why I suggest not buying a longer one, but buying 2 10s or a 10 and a 15, depending on how long your RV is. If you buy the kit, a nice one, you'll generally get the sewer tube and all the connectors and everything that comes with it. And then you can just buy an extra piece of tube, usually from the same brand. That second one can be a little cheaper too. It's your choice how you want to do it, but you're going to need to get some bedding and you want to get some basic dishes, even if it's just some plastic cups and paper plates to start. You want something in there so you can have a meal, some paper towels, toilet paper, the basic things you'd buy the first day you move into your new house. And as you look around the inside of that RV, you're probably going to realize really quickly that the mattress your RV came with wasn't that great, and you're probably going to want to swap it out. Here's what we did.
You
know how every RV comes with a terrible mattress? Ours was no exception. Thin, floppy, and basically useless. So for this trip, we finally upgraded to a Tochta Utopia, a custom RV mattress made just for our weird Murphy bed dimensions. We gave them the measurements, picked our firmness, and they shipped it ahead of us to a UPS access point on our route. That's right, we picked it up mid-trip right in Hinton, Alberta, unboxed it in the trailer, and bam, it's amazing. Comfortable, folds perfectly, and somehow it opened up even more storage in our Murphy bed than we had before. A huge thanks to Tochta for making this possible. Honestly, this is the first time we've ever slept well in the RV. And finally, you're going to want a toolkit. It's best if this toolkit is just dedicated to your RV, but if nothing else, you want to make sure that you have everything you need for the RV. So that's a basic toolkit with your average socket set and wrenches, screwdrivers, all that, vice grips, duct tape. But you also want to do some extra things. You want to walk around your trailer, especially around the hitch, and any large bolts, you want to make sure that you can accommodate that with your toolkit. Sometimes that means getting a larger ratchet. Sometimes that means having a braking bar, and you certainly want to have a torque wrench. That torque wrench should go into the hundreds, so you want a nice beefy automotive one. You want to make sure you have a multimeter and a circuit tester. Hopefully you know how to use them. If not, there's YouTube out there with your name on it. Make sure you have some good heavy-duty Gorilla tape and some Eternabond tape for your roof in case you have a rubber roof tear. Make sure you have spare fuses and bulbs for both the outside and inside of the trailer. It's also a good idea to have some extra sealant, to have some extra electrical tape, some electrical wiring. Zip ties are an important part of the process. You want to have all that in your kit. And again, if you can keep it dedicated to your RV, that's even better. Now that you've bought everything, you want to put it away in a very logical place so everything has its place. That's important so that you can find it again. It's kind of like a workshop or a kitchen where everything goes where it's supposed to go, so you always know where it is. So make sure you figure out where you're going to mount your sewer tube, put that away. Make sure to bring a level so you can level your RV when you park it. And make sure that your stabilizer jacks are working. You want to lower and raise those and make sure they're working fine. Some of the newer ones have some special instructions, so make sure you read the manual. Now you want to take it on a shakedown trip. Generally, I try to book 2 nights at a minimum, and I do it close to my house, so in case there's a problem, I can go home. I remember the first night I actually went home for dinner and then came back to the RV. You want to operate every system you have in a real-life environment. You want to hook up to the water. You want to hook up to the power. You want to live in this RV for a day or two. And again, keep adding to that list. Anything you see or you have questions about, you want to make a little list of that so you can follow it up later. This is a good time to look around, maybe tighten up any drawers, look around for loose screws or anything that needs just a little bit of maintenance now that it's yours. Get to really know your trailer. Before you pull out and head to that campsite, make sure that you torque the wheels. I can't stress this enough that when you get a brand new trailer, anytime you've taken the wheels off a trailer, you want to re-torque the wheels to the factory spec. If you're not sure of the factory spec, work really hard on finding out what that is. Generally, for the RV trailers I've had, it has been between 110 and 120 pounds has been the setting. So if you're not sure, maybe start there. If you think that's an egregious claim, comment below. Then you want to check that torque at 10, 50, 100 kilometers and 500 kilometers. If you want to do miles instead, that's fine, but do it at 10, 50, 100, and 500. By checking at such intervals, you'll assure that the bolts don't come loose. Lug nuts do come loose off the bolts. It has happened, and I've gone and done that and found that actually it was a little loose. So it's something about trailer tires. They're not the same as automotive vehicles. So you want to do this every 10, 50, 100, 500 kilometers or miles. By doing this, I have noticed that, as I've been told, sometimes with trailers, the wheels do become a little loose in the beginning. Those nuts will actually unscrew a little. And I have had to retighten them and have gone a few degrees up and then it clicks. So I'm really glad I do that because I have found loose lug nuts in the past after I checked them at those intervals. Hey, I mentioned my Patreon earlier. You can get the list there, and you can sign up at Patreon as a Joe's Road Tripper if you'd like. That's actually kind of an inside group of folks who enjoy my channel. And the Joe's Road Tripper also have a bit of say in how the channel goes. Often I'm trying to figure out what to do or how I should do things on the channel. I'll ask the Joe Road Trippers and they'll be able to give me their advice. So by becoming a Joe's Road Tripper, you actually influence the direction of this channel. And you support me and my wife and all the hours we put into these videos. Now back to the list. When you get back to your storage area or your driveway and you got it parked, you want to make sure to drain all of those tanks. You want every tank empty pretty much. You want to release all those drain valves, the water heater, the potable water. And the only thing that should really have water in it when you park it is the black tank. It's a good idea to have a couple of gallons of water in there, as well as some black tank treatment. That helps keep things clean and it helps things from drying out. You really don't want your black tank to dry out. You also don't want it to stink. So use some of that liquid, and if you're going to leave it there all winter, you might want to go out there and pour a little more in. If it is going to be winter, you do want to look into winterization. This is where you pump a liquid through your plumbing system that keeps it from freezing. Some people will blow out all of the water and just leave air behind. Again, there's a few different ways to do this, but you should watch a video or two on winterizing your RV, and you definitely do not want to park your RV in freezing temperatures with water in the plumbing system without addressing this, or you will have, most likely, water leaks when it comes time for summer. Water leaks inside your RV will destroy your RV, and it is the number one thing you need to fight against. So whether it's checking those seals on the roof, or making sure that your plumbing system always has a regulator, or making sure that you winterize your RV in the winter, the number one thing you need to do is keep water out of your RV, followed by mice. But that's another story in another video. Now, man, that was a lot. I hope this list is a great starter for you. Like I said in the beginning, I know I missed a lot of things. I had to gloss over some things, and I can only make this video so long. So if you think there's something critical that I missed, make sure you comment below, add it to the list. And if you're watching this to get information, make sure you read the comments so you can see the other people's take. Some people will point out things that I forgot. Some people will disagree with me, and that's important too, because sometimes there are multiple different ways to solve these problems, and people disagree on how to do it. You should probably look at both ways and then decide for yourself. I hope this was helpful. Comment below and let me know if you have any more questions. And whether you're thinking of buying an RV, you just bought an RV, or you've had one for a real long time, make sure you get out there and get busy living. Thanks, everyone.
Rolling out in my Ember, chasing sunsets down the line. Every mile's an adventure, every stop a brand new sign. Built to keep the fire steady through the load. My Ember takes me farther on the wide open road. With Ember on the open road, that's where I feel free. Rolling out in my Ember, chasing sunsets down the line. Every mile's an adventure, every stop a brand new sign. Built to